Forget everything you've heard about surviving extreme cold, because right now, Black homeless men in cities like Chicago and Detroit are building shelters that stay warm at -30 degrees, while families with working furnaces huddle under blankets watching their breath fog indoors. The methods they use have been passed down through decades of street survival, refined by necessity, and completely ignored by everyone with a thermostat. These are not random hacks. They are engineered systems built from garbage and hard-won knowledge. The science behind them would make most licensed architects sit down and take notes. Here's the first thing nobody tells you about extreme cold survival. Insulation matters more than the heat source. Your furnace can pump out thousands of British thermal units, but if your walls leak and your windows draft, you are essentially trying to warm the entire atmosphere. Homeless men figured this out decades ago. They do not have furnaces. What they have is understanding that keeps them alive when understanding fails everyone else. Cardboard, the same material Amazon uses to ship your packages, becomes one of the most effective insulators available to anyone with nothing. Those wavy ridges inside corrugated cardboard trap dead air, and trapped air is nature's thermal barrier. Same principle behind expensive down jackets and double-pane windows. 3 layers of flattened boxes beneath a sleeping setup can raise perceived temperature by 15 degrees. That's the difference between dangerous shivering and actual rest. But not all cardboard performs equally. Refrigerator boxes are the gold standard. Thick walls, dense corrugation, superior heat retention. Appliance boxes from washing machines and dryers come close. Experienced street survivors guard these like valuable property because they are. Timing matters too. Grocery stores receive deliveries on schedules, and knowing when fresh dry cardboard arrives means getting materials before moisture ruins everything you need. Here's the catch. Wet cardboard loses insulating power almost immediately. Worse, it grows mold within days. Breathing mold leads to respiratory problems nobody needs when they are already fighting to survive. So veterans developed cardboard sandwiches. Plastic sheeting layered between cardboard sheets blocks ground moisture from wicking upward. Simple, effective, completely free. The sophistication increases from there. Some build entire modular systems with walls, floors, and ceilings, all engineered to maximize dead air space. But cardboard only traps heat. It cannot reflect it back toward your body. That is where things get genuinely interesting. Mylar blankets, those crinkly silver sheets that marathon runners wrap around themselves at finish lines, weigh almost nothing, but they reflect up to 90% of body heat directly back at you. Homeless survivors do not just wrap themselves in Mylar, they line their cardboard walls with it, and suddenly, that simple box becomes a radiant heat chamber. Your body warms the air, the Mylar bounces warmth back, and you are essentially slow cooking yourself in the best possible way. But there is always a catch. Condensation. Your body releases moisture all night long. That moisture hits the Mylar, cannot escape, and now you are wet. Wet in extreme cold is worse than just being cold. The fix is simple, but most people miss it entirely. Leave a small gap for ventilation. Let moisture escape while keeping most heat trapped. My grandfather used to say, knowing the trick was not enough. You had to know the trick behind the trick. That is what separates people who survive one winter from people who survive 20 winters and teach others. Hand warmers take things further. Those little packets you stuff in your gloves during football games are basically survival technology hiding in convenience store packaging. The chemistry is straightforward. Iron meets oxygen. Oxidation generates heat. It is the same reaction that rusts your car, only faster and controlled. These packets reach temperatures around 158 degrees and keep pumping heat for 8 to 10 hours straight. But here is what separates amateurs from survivors who have made it through multiple winters. Placement matters more than quantity. Forget your hands. Your body prioritizes keeping your core warm, so work with that system. Tuck warmers near major arteries, wrists, the neck, and the groin area. Blood flows through these spots constantly, heating your entire body faster than stuffing 10 packets into your jacket pockets. The resourcefulness runs deeper. Some folks figured out how to resurrect spent warmers, bury the dead packets in cat litter overnight. The litter absorbs moisture that killed the reaction, giving you a second burn. They burn for a shorter duration, but free heat is free heat. Speaking of generating heat rather than just trapping it, terracotta flower pots flipped over tea light candles create radiant heaters that bump shelter temperatures by 10 to 20 degrees. The clay absorbs flame heat and releases it slowly as infrared radiation, warming objects and bodies directly rather than just heating air. The same principle is behind expensive ceramic heaters. This version costs $3. Tea lights burn at around 1,000 degrees at the flame tip, but most of that heat normally rises straight up and disappears. The pot captures it, stores it, and radiates it outward. Dollar stores sell tea lights at roughly 20 mic for $1. That is cheap heat by any standard. Veterans figured out a neat enhancement. They cracked the pot slightly on purpose, just a small fracture. This creates airflow, preventing candles from suffocating on their own carbon dioxide. Without that crack, flames starve and die within minutes. Makes sense, right? The obvious concern is fire risk. These candles cannot burn while you sleep. One tip and your cardboard shelter becomes an inferno. That brings us to something completely fireproof that has been holding heat since before humans discovered fire. Heated rocks. Dense stones warmed in fire hold temperature for 6 to 8 hours. Basically nature's rechargeable batteries. Here is the critical knowledge though. Not all rocks cooperate with fire. River rocks. Avoid them like dangerous strangers. Those smooth beauties contain moisture pockets inside. Heat that trapped water and you get explosive fracturing. Literal explosions, sending shrapnel through your shelter. Nobody wants geology delivered at high velocity. The stones you want are dense, completely dry, and roughly potato-sized. Small enough to handle without burning yourself. Large enough to store meaningful heat. Granite works beautifully. Basalt, too. These dense volcanic rocks hold temperature like they are personally offended by cold. Sandstone and limestone cool faster than coffee on a December morning. My uncle knew this trick from hunting trips. His father learned it riding freight trains during hard times. 3 generations of the same simple knowledge passed down. Longtime rough sleepers maintain what they call rock gardens near fire pits, stones specifically selected and tested for heat retention. Surprisingly scientific for people society writes off as having nothing to offer. But rocks eventually cool. You cannot reheat them at 3 in the morning. What if the heat source generated itself without any flame at all? Decomposition produces serious heat. We're talking 120 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit at the core of an active compost pile, hotter than most hot tubs. Near farms and landscaping operations, some homeless camps build sleeping platforms right beside compost piles. The biology is real. Bacteria breaking down organic matter generate heat as a byproduct, the same reason wet leaf piles steam on cold mornings. A 3-foot pile of grass clippings mixed with food scraps pumps out warmth for 2 to 3 weeks straight. No matches needed. The ratio matters more than you'd think. Roughly 30 parts carbon material to 1 part nitrogen creates optimal, sustained heat. Too much nitrogen burns hot but fast. Too much carbon causes slow, cold breakdown. Getting it right is chemistry class meeting survival mode. Japanese farmers figured this out in the 1600s, heating greenhouses using fermentation. Same principle, different application. The downsides are significant. Smell, insects, and potential disease concerns. You are sleeping next to a bacterial reactor, not anyone's first choice. But when temperatures drop to -30 degrees Fahrenheit, people make different calculations. Taking literal garbage and extracting warmth from its decay takes desperate genius. Some people skip the surface entirely. Here's what surprises most people. Dig down past the frost line and the Earth stays around 55 degrees year-round. It doesn't matter if it's brutal winter above. Homeless populations figured this out decades ago. Las Vegas has an entire community living beneath the Strip. While tourists gamble overhead, an estimated 1,000 people once called those flood tunnels home. They set up furniture and built actual neighborhoods. No heating required. New York has its mole people. Moscow has tunnel dwellers dating back to Soviet times. These are not random hiding spots. They are established communities with social structures. Zero fuel input is needed. The Earth itself acts like a massive thermal battery. Your body produces roughly 100 watts constantly. Underground, almost none of that heat escapes. But there is a catch. Flash floods are a real danger. Those Las Vegas tunnels are storm drains. When monsoon season hits, water rushes through with almost no warning. People have died down there. Speaking of sharing resources, the most overlooked heating method costs absolutely nothing. Other people. Put 3 or 4 people together in a tight space, and you have a 400-watt heater that never runs out. Shelter temperatures jump 15 to 25 degrees from combined body heat alone. No candles, no chemical packets. Just biology. Dogs are not just companions in homeless camps. They are furry space heaters running at 101 degrees, warmer than you. Camps welcome dogs for exactly this reason. Research backs this up. Clustered sleeping reduces hypothermia deaths by roughly 40% compared to sleeping alone. That is the difference between waking up and not waking up. 2 soda cans. That's all it takes to build a functional stove. Cut the bottoms off both cans, fit them together like a tiny capsule, poke holes around the rim, and you have an alcohol burner. The whole thing weighs less than an ounce. This design produces enough heat to warm hands, boil water, and take the edge off a freezing shelter. 20 to 30 minutes of burn time from a single fill. Fuel sources are surprisingly accessible. Hand sanitizer works. Rubbing alcohol works. Heat fuel additive from auto parts stores burns beautifully and costs under $5 for weeks of use. Here is the scary part. The flame is almost invisible in daylight. You can have it roaring at full blast and barely see it. People have burned themselves badly reaching over a stove they thought was extinguished. The design came from long-distance hikers on the Appalachian Trail. Word spread through shelters, under bridges, and it eventually became common knowledge in homeless communities. 1 ounce of denatured alcohol produces roughly 600 British thermal units of heat. It will not warm a gymnasium, but in a tent-sized space, you feel the difference immediately. The best part is, if your stove gets confiscated, you are 30 seconds away from building another. Speaking of resources everywhere, there is something even simpler most people walk past daily. The sun is free, and homeless survivors figured out how to bottle it. Black plastic bags filled with water and left in direct sunlight can reach temperatures above 100 degrees by late afternoon. Stuff a few water-filled bags inside your shelter before sunset, and you have a poor man's radiator working all night. Water holds heat like nothing else. A single gallon heated to 100 degrees contains enough thermal energy to warm a small shelter for several hours. It is your grandmother's hot water bottle, except the sun did all the work. The real trick is south-facing shelter openings covered with clear plastic. This creates a greenhouse effect that works even on freezing days. Position reflective car windshield shades to bounce extra sunlight onto your water bags, and you can accelerate heating by 30%. Free technology sitting in dumpsters. The catch: cloudy days destroy this entire system. That is why experienced folks never rely on solar alone. They treat it as bonus heat when conditions cooperate. Stack every advantage you can. Speaking of stacking, there is another free material that has been keeping people warm since the Great Depression. Newspapers. Crumpled newspaper, stuffed inside your jacket, works almost as well as a light sweater. Homeless veterans call this technique bumming up. Paper traps air and air insulates. That is the whole science. Layering newspapers between blankets creates dead air pockets that seriously reduce heat loss. It is the same principle as double pane windows. Cost is exactly zero. A full Sunday newspaper provides enough material to insulate a sleeping bag's foot area and most of the torso. Significant warmth comes from something people throw away constantly. There is a catch. The ink transfers, skin turns gray, clothes get stained. It is basically a visible badge, telling everyone exactly what you have been doing. This is not modern either. Depression-era hobos were doing this in the 1930s. They called newspaper insulation California blankets. Pretty dark humor, but that is how people coped. Wind chill is a brutal multiplier. At 35 degrees with a 20-mile-per-hour breeze, your body loses heat like it is actually 15 degrees outside. That is a 20-degree penalty just from moving air. Blocking wind becomes free heating. A single sheet of plastic wrapped around a shelter stops convective heat loss almost completely. Construction sites throw away usable tarps constantly. Workers rip a small hole and toss the whole thing. Seal your shelter too tight and you will wake up soaked. Without ventilation gaps, moisture condenses on cold plastic and drips back onto bedding. Wet insulation becomes worse than none. Clear plastic beats opaque. Sunlight passes through, heats whatever is inside, and warmth gets trapped. You are building a tiny passive solar heater using garbage. The real professionals position shelter entrances away from prevailing winds. Then they build L-shaped windbreak walls using additional tarps. Wind hits the barrier, deflects around, and never touches the main structure. Here is what it all comes down to. None of these methods work perfectly alone. Cardboard plus mylar plus body heat plus wind barriers, that is the real system. Knowledge passed through generations of necessity, refined by people society pretends, do not exist. My grandfather used to say, desperation is the mother of invention, and community is the father of survival. These men are not just surviving, they are engineering solutions that work better than most plans. -30 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Shelters stay warm while houses with heat freeze. It makes you wonder who really understands how the world works.